Hello and welcome back to the Eyes of O Gaming channel for another game review. And really quickly before we get into the video today, I just wanted to make a really quick shout out. The channel has reached 2,900 subscribers. And obviously this doesn't happen without your support. So thank you all, I really do appreciate it. So what game are we looking at today? Well, it's Call of Juarez The Cartel. For this one, we're stepping all the way back to a 2011 release date for this retrospective review. Call of Juarez The Cartel was published by Ubisoft and Techland and developed by Techland. If you follow the channel and have seen some older reviews or retrospectives we've looked at in the past, we also checked out Call of Juarez Bound in Blood, which was also developed by Techland. This particular release in the series is the third released game, with Call of Juarez and Call of Juarez Bound in Blood coming out before it. So, as always with these older game reviews, let's take a look together at how it's held up over the years to hopefully help you answer the most important question asked on the channel. Is it still worth it for you? Let's get into it. So what is this game all about? Well, the first thing that you're going to notice is that it's much more modern than the previous releases in terms of timeline, taking place in Los Angeles in 2011. The game is going to begin by introducing the antagonists, the Mendoza cartel, who bomb the DEA, and the government responds by creating a task force, which is formed by combining members from the LAPD, FBI, and DEA. So as there's 3 different organizations represented, there's also 3 playable characters to choose from. Kimberly Evans is the FBI agent, Eddie Guerra is the DEA agent, and Ben McCall, who, if you played the previous entry, is apparently the descendant of Ray McCall. Anyway, the game basically dumps you into a Los Angeles which is full of gangs and crime and has you essentially just go to war with it all. Really, I think that's all you need to know. It's a neo-Western style game, and the agents of the law are going up against criminals to bring them down. Obviously, the story is going to be developed a little bit more as things go on throughout, but I don't want to drop any major story spoilers for this game, even with it being well over a decade old at this point. Looking at comparisons for this game, well, we've got the other Call of Juarez games. Specifically, I would say that this is like Call of Juarez Bound in Blood, but a lot of that just comes from the fact that that's the only other Call of Juarez game I've played. It's definitely going to feel very similar, at least in how the game plays and handles, though obviously there are some major setting differences. Bound in Blood was a game that takes place in the Old West, and this one is definitely a lot more modern. If you'd like to check out Bound in Blood, I have covered it previously, so I'll make sure that there's links or pop-ups or something for that game. The concentration mode, which slows time, does feel similar to the Red Dead franchise. However, Red Dead felt more similar to Bound in Blood, since they both share the Western setting, and since Call of Juarez The Cartel takes place in a modern setting, there's definitely going to be more differences when comparing to this one. For other comparisons, you could really look at a lot of first-person shooters from 2010s, as it's going to have a lot in common with those. They all tended to have a more or less similar feel, basically dropping you into a mission zone, you run around taking out enemies, and working your way to an endpoint. This is certainly a game before the era of every game needing to be an open world, customize everything loot box marketplace. Looking at mechanics, well, it's a first-person shooter from the late 2010s, so if you played similar old-school first-person shooters from that time, you're going to have some idea of the mechanics. One of the big unique ones is slowing time with concentration mode. You can also switch weapons throughout the level zone and grab enemy weapons, which is always nice to see in these games. There is some driving sequences, but it's going to feel pretty clunky, especially compared to more modern games. There's also cash stashed around in level zones which you can pick up. As I mentioned earlier, you have 3 characters to choose from, and they basically specialize in short, medium, and long range, so keep that in mind if that's really important to you. Really, I didn't think it was too much of a big deal, and I would say choose your character more based on who your preference to play is. When you arrive at different locations, pretty much it just drops you off there, and there's going to be massive populations of enemies. In the beginning of the game, you're taking out an entire forest full of runners, or a city zone, which appears to be solely populated by gangsters. I get that this is for gameplay reasons, but it still feels a little weird when you're playing through. The game also likes to throw helicopter boss fights at you, which can be a lot more aggravating rather than fun. But really, this is going to be player dependent, so maybe you'll like it more than I did. Car chase sequences also make an appearance in the game, and they feel quite chaotic, but they do offer an interesting change to break up the otherwise routine firefights. One interesting thing is, depending on who you play as, you're going to get phone calls with extra story being told to you. The other characters are also going to get these calls, but you only hear their side of the conversation if you're not playing as them. This means if you really enjoyed the story of this game, you can play through 3 different times in order to get 3 different perspectives of what's going on. The graphics certainly aren't going to make the game feel unplayable, but they are definitely showing their age at this point, and make the game feel dated. So depending on how you feel about it, that may or may not be an issue for you. There are a few different locations, which is nice to change things up. Essentially, your environments are going to include urban, forest, and Mexican countryside and desert. Graphics are always a subjective thing, and they're going to be more important to some people and less to others. So just use the gameplay footage to decide for yourself if it's something that you can live with. So what's going to be unique in this game? Well, it's a fairly straightforward first-person shooter, but it does have a couple of unique aspects. The concentration mode was still fairly novel when it came out. It wasn't totally unique, but it wasn't as common to see in games as it is now. The fact that you can choose from 3 different playable characters which offer a unique spin on the game is also interesting and has some different mechanics as a result. For instance, as I mentioned, you're going to get calls throughout, which you're only going to hear the whole story of the character you choose to play as. The other characters will receive other information, which is going to be hidden from you unless you play through the game as them as well. Aside from that, you also get secret agendas. These are kind of like side missions, but must be completed during the missions without the other characters witnessing you do them. Again, this is also character dependent, so it adds a bit of variety for you. So, just like with graphics, sound will be more of a personal thing. In my opinion, the writing and delivery of dialogue is not as good as Bound in Blood. And there's definitely going to be what I thought was some pretty cringy moments. But really, this is going to be similar with a lot of games that came out in this time, so it's not a unique issue. And who knows, for some of you, it might offer some nostalgia or get you more into the game if you like games of this era. I'll play a few examples of sound from the game just to give you an idea.
Here's how it works, asshole. It's just like confession. I ask and you answer, and if I don't like what I hear, I give you over to my compadre.
Give me to the girl, man. Your homie ain't really my type, ese.
Oh! You already off to a bad start, Javier.
Well, you got what you wanted.
Keep your head down. Ahead. You know, you don't have to do this all by yourself.
How about a date?
I will make mine arrows drunk with blood, and my sword shall devour flesh. And I will bathe in the blood of my motherfucking enemies.
At least we know where the leak is now,
We
right?
don't know shit.
Crap, that's the kitchenette on the left, nasty-ass bathroom on the right.
Is everything a goddamn soliloquy with you?
Whoa, 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 pardon me for having a personality.
And now with the general look at the game done, let's get into opinions and subjective territory. I want to keep this short, but just want to mention a couple of things. If you've seen some of the other reviews, you know the deal, but for new people, don't expect a number rating or something like that because I don't believe in them. The entire point of these reviews is just to show you the game and let you decide for yourself. Not everyone is going to enjoy every game, and your own experience is going to be subjective and personal. That said, now that I've gone over the game in general, I'm just going to talk about it a bit and my own experience for those interested. Just keep in mind that whether or not I enjoyed the game doesn't mean that you will or won't. You should make your decision on whether to give it a try based on the breakdown done in the first part of the review. And so did I enjoy Call of Juarez The Cartel?
Okay, fine, it's not great.
Well, it's not a good game, I would say. It's really not as good as Bound in Blood in my opinion. It's just a dumb shooter and the story feels kind of poor and convoluted. But it's a game that if you just turn off your brain, you can run around shooting. As long as you come in with the right expectation, it could be entertaining for what it is. I was able to get through the whole game, and mostly I just put it on when I wanted to do some mindless shooting, nothing more. I did like the fact that choosing your character does have some impact on the story, or at least how you perceive it, though I wasn't interested enough in it to do subsequent playthroughs as other characters. The story just wasn't interesting enough for me to care enough to try to get all those hidden pieces. Once was really more than enough for me. Somehow I felt like the gunplay was worse than Bound in Blood, even though this one came out after that one. So intuitively you would expect that some improvements could have been made between them. A lot of the game just feels really clunky. Driving especially did not handle well, and I really found those helicopter fights to just be a big pain rather than fun or an interesting challenge. This one is also chock full of awkward or cringe moments that kind of took me out of it. But at the same time, it was fun to just experience this classic style of game, warts and all. In the end, if you're okay with playing through something that feels like it's a half-baked story, and don't mind some clunkiness and just want some brainless shooting gallery style gameplay, this might be a good one for you to check out, especially since considering its age, you can probably pick this one up for a huge bargain. So I hope you enjoyed this look at Call of Juarez The Cartel. Have you already played through this one? Let me know down in the comments what you thought, and if you agree or disagree with my own opinion. If the video was helpful or entertaining, please give me a like here, as it really helps me out a lot, and consider subscribing to the channel. I post a variety of gaming content, not just reviews, but also walkthroughs and other videos, and would love to have you join the community and help direct the future of the channel. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch today, and until next time, take care.
Well, you got what you wanted.
Detective Benjamin McCall. He's with LAPD's Robbery Homicide Division. A 30-year veteran, he is a 2-time winner of the Medal of Valor.
A homicide detective? With all due respect, ma'am, isn't this a little out of his jurisdiction?
Not at all. Stone's daughter Jessica contacted Detective McCall the day after the bombing and told him her father had been threatened just the day before. Which means we actually have a suspect and a witness. The suspect is Antonio Alvarez.
Why'd she take that to the LAPD? Why not come to us?
That's why.
That's right, Agent Guerra. They all served together in Vietnam. McCall knows them both.
So 2 became cops, and 1 became a crook.
Worse than that. He's an asshole.
Agent Evans, Agent Guerra, I'd like you to meet Detective McCall. You'll have whatever you need as far as resources. But in terms of manpower, you're on your own. No backup from federal agencies. We don't know who we can trust, so you'll only report to me. You're going to hit the Mendoza cartel as hard as humanly possible.